The call to order the school committee meeting of April 22nd, 2019, it is 6 PM. This meeting is being phoned audio and videotaped. Is anyone else audio or videotaping this meeting? Seeing and hearing none, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The roll call for good luck, I always start to my left.
Jake Brady, Steve Rapp.
Bill Fonseca?
Sarah Trulio.
Gregory Thompson.
Rich Ficero.
Gordon Smith, Superintendent of Schools.
Elizabeth Marcin Boucher.
Kathy Saletti, Recording Secretary.
And for once this year, we are starting this meeting in the best possible way, recognizing Teachers in Excellence Program, the Grinspoon winners for this year. So, Mr. Gordon Smith, I'll turn it over to you.
So we have our 4 Grinspoon winners sitting in the audience right now. I'd like to invite them up to the table right here. Ladies. Some very esteemed guests here this evening. So just in the order going from my left to right, you have Betsy Sheehan, who's one of our counselors at Meadowbrook. And so she's a Grinspoon Award winner for East Long Meadow for a teacher who's been in the practice for 3 or more years. You have Jacqueline Wheelock, who is first-year family consumer science teacher at Birchland Park Middle School. And so she is a Grinspoon Award winner for ELPS in the area of someone who's been in teaching practice for 1 to 3 years. And then you have Anne Marie Mowry, who is a 4th grade teacher at Mountain View, and she is 3 years in practice, 3 years or more, Grinspoon winner. And then you have Lee Plana, who is a 3rd grade teacher at Mapleshade, who is also in that same category. So based on our enrollment, we have 3 teachers who have had 3 years or more in the field of teaching, and 1 teacher who is, in terms of the awards that we can award. And the really neat part of this whole process, beyond the exceptional work that these 4 contribute every day to their schools and for their students, is that our nomination process begins with peers. So it's their peers that have nominated, and we certainly have seen, I think, all names. This is Jacqueline's first year, so we did not see Jacqueline's name in previous years, but being on the final committee where we make those selections, we've seen all names a number of years in a row, which is really impressive. So we wanted to take a moment and congratulate all of you for the incredible work that you do. I don't know if you...
Being a member of that collaborative committee, the comments from the peers were outstanding about each of these teachers and counselors. It was just really gratifying to have something so special and something so positive in that collaborative meeting, and we're just so happy for all 4 of you. It's wonderful.
Congratulations.
Could we have a speech from each of you, please?
I was just going to shake their hand.
How about
Sorry.
Mr. Smith's hand?
Sprinting over.
You can make a speech or I'll shake his hand.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. All 4 winners are going to attend the Grinspoon Excellence in Teaching Banquet.
I think, Ms.
and
Marcy, about you'll be attending
I
also,
am
right?
going,
Beautiful.
yes, I am.
And that is on May 9th.
Thank you again, thank you for
Thank you.
attending.
Yeah.
tonight.
Thank you.
Really
Congratulations.
appreciate it.
Well, congratulations.
And this goes out to millions of viewers.
Good 12 views at the end
Yeah,
of the
yeah, at least, come on.
15 minutes of fame.
So,
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out tonight, too.
Thank you.
Now moving to the really exciting part of this agenda. We're gonna have Mr. Smith tell us about our budget for 2020. Wow, it seems like so, wow, 2020.
while I get set up, you may want to officially open the budget hearing.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's a separate opening?
oh, yeah.
Okay. So at this time, do I have a motion to open the
No, you
budget?
just open it. There's no motion needed. You just open the public hearing.
Okay, at this time, then, the East Long Meadow Public Schools will open the budget hearing for our 2020 proposal. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Smith, our superintendent.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ficero. So just as you said, this is our school committee budget hearing for fiscal year 2020, which is the next fiscal year. I apologize, we only have two screens working, so it is on the screen behind me and the screen to my left. I think all of you have it also in your electronic packet. One of the things we're attempting to refine and continue to support in this budget for next year is to make sure that, similar to our goal this year, we're supporting the whole child. And what does that mean? Well, it means more than just focusing on academics. Obviously, we always want to do that, but it also means focusing on social and emotional education and making sure that we are culturally responsive as a district. So as we continue to refine that and as we work through the development of this budget, you've seen over the last probably 4 years, maybe 5 years in our SMART goals, a lot of information and targets around how we are starting to put the opportunities, if you will, to introduce 21st century skills such as critical thinking, problem solving, collaborating, communicating effectively both in written and oral formats, and integrating technology not as the 21st century skill goal itself, but as an aid or support to helping students build these skills. As we looked at our goals this year, and certainly as we're transitioning into budget development and ultimately hopefully gaining a new budget, we're also looking at not having social competencies, and this is the competencies that have been defined for social and emotional education and support. How do we, within our curriculum and across the curriculum, build opportunities to do both? Students to build their 21st century skills, but also where in, say, a teacher's curriculum might they also be able to help students look at, are they becoming self-aware? Are they able to self-regulate? Are they able to adjust to different stressors or different atmospheres? Relationship building and responsible decision making. These are things that we've in schools probably done for many, many years, but now we need to have a focus where we're connecting this better to the work we do on a daily basis and showing our teachers how it is connected and how they might be able to continue to evolve their curriculum to include these things. Something you hear me say, I think almost every budget hearing, thank you, Mr. Vaccaro, is that school systems budget is probably the most strategic factor to impact every student's success in reaching his or her full potential while allowing the district to meet its goals for all students. So I never want to forget that, that important point. This gives you an idea of where we've been, basically since fiscal year 2012, all the way through our request. The East Long Meadow community as a whole certainly supports education and values education, and you can see through the years the budget increases we received reflect that. There's really only 1 year back in FY 2015 where there was some challenging times and we received something below either 2% or more in terms of the request. This year, it's a little bit higher request, but as we go through slides, you'll see where we think that might be okay in the town. Hopefully we'll be able to support us with that request of 3.46%. This gives you an idea, and you saw this in the, not this particular chart, but you've seen in other presentations how the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education compares us to a group of districts, most, actually all, starting the last few years, that are not really directly around us. We often will compare to the LPVC districts, but we aren't necessarily, when you start to break down the demographics of the districts, exactly similar to, say, Longmeadow or Hamden-Wilbraham or Agawam, the school districts that make up the LPVC. So this is a look at the DART districts, the districts DESE compares us with, or with which DESE compares us. And you can see over the last 3 years, the per pupil spending, state averages around $16,465 in terms of FY 2018, and basically I ranked these on the FY 2018, going down in terms of decreasing numbers. Sandwich is the highest at $17,455, and you sort of see where we fall as you go through the chart. And as you see subsequent charts, some of which you saw during the mid-cycle review, it's interesting, we are certainly making the most of the dollars that we're spending, because we seem to be right, if not at the top of the DART districts with basic state, or looking at the state achievement and assessment system, or close to the top. Probably should have said at the beginning, if there are questions at all throughout, you can certainly interrupt.
Just an observation, a lot of the increases for other towns are significant,
Mhm.
$1,000, $800. We've held it at $550 and $430
Yeah.
Right.
for the 3 years.
Which is actually, going back one slide, pretty consistent with where the town has been in
Yeah.
terms of, percentage increases.
Yeah.
Then just moving forward, so some of our internal assessments, you saw some of this during the mid-cycle review. At the mid-cycle, the aggregate star at the schools, Birchland, Maple Shade, Meadowbrook, and Mountain View, you saw some pretty good growth percentiles. 50, high of 64, but then you also at Maple Shade had 58 and 59.
Now, to frame that, what's it, averages between 40 and 60?
Generally, you're looking for growth somewhere between the 40th and 60th percentile. If you can achieve closer to 60, you're now getting to much higher growth. If you can stay in that band, you're, average growth moving towards high growth. Below the 40th percentile, they're looking at what they would consider lower growth. So that's reading. And then in math, we do, as you were just mentioning, we're start to go down a little bit closer to that 40 range, but you still have a high of 62 at Mountain View and Meadowbrook, and then Maple Shade at 58 and Birchland at 47. Now, that's not comparing the DART districts, this is coming next, but just giving you some idea of what we're seeing at the mid-cycle. And so this is the legacy MCAS, which is still the one that the high school takes, and you see ELPS in the DART districts as number 1. Interesting, if you can remember back to that slide, Sandwich was the highest per pupil expenditure. They're not far off in 3, but some of those others that were up higher on that chart, like Billerica and Tewksbury and so forth, much further down. Then in math, and interestingly enough, and I think Mr. Fredette said this, Foxborough does have a pretty high per pupil expenditure, but certainly they're achieving in math, and you'll see this as we get to the elementary grades as well. Mr. Fredette had already had outreach to, there was a text coming across my screen. Sorry. Had already done some outreach to Foxborough to find out what their elementary schools are doing.
Well, once again, if you look at, can you
Sorry.
back one, please?
Mhm.
The only school with that has a lower pre-approval cost that's above us is Norton. The rest are all much higher.
Right. And Lunenburg
We just
is,
lost it.
oh, still there.
Okay.
Lunenburg is pretty close to
Close,
ours.
right, yeah, right.
Actually, just below, and they're right around us. As you go into the legacy science, you see that we're right there. Billerica now has moved up to the top. And then you move into, now this is aggregate.
Go back one. I'm
Sorry.
sorry. I want to make an editorial comment here.
Okay.
Because as we ask for new high school,
Mhm.
I'm getting a lot of pushback saying, wait a minute.
Yep.
We need a new high school. Our kids are going to Yale, our kids are going to MIT, our kids are going to Harvard. Now you look at this and you say, wait a minute, why do we need a high school? So I think we have to make a point here that we have to compliment our student body and our staff
Mhm.
that they're achieving in difficult conditions.
Right.
That
I
we
would
still need a new high school.
Right.
That these schools could even be better with the new high school. I want to make that comment because I'm getting pushback the more we say we need a new high school from people who are saying, why?
Right.
And they point to scores and college acceptances. I just want to make that editorial.
No, it's important, it's an important point to make,
Yeah.
because that mentality is out there.
Yes,
because-
the stronger the pros push, the more the cons are coming out now.
Correct, correct.
And I just
And
want
there's been some consistent creative work by staff and by
Obviously.
students, really,
Well,
to try to figure out how you meet some of the challenges that the building puts in place.
Right, and they've done an excellent job at it.
yeah, so compliments to
That's-
our whole East Long
Yeah.
Meadow constituency for that. High school constituency.
Thank you. So this is aggregate, and this is the next generation MCAS, again with the dark districts. And you can see, as you aggregate grades 3 through 8 achievement, we're in the lead there, tied with Stoneham. Then as you move to math, we did slide down to third there. But interesting, Foxborough and Seekonk, if you remember, their per pupil expenditures were much higher. But doesn't mean that we shouldn't outreach
Now,
and find
these
out
are
what
the
they're doing.
first year they did the next generation.
Second year.
Second year, but on the computer, everything was 100%
Everything was
on
on the
computers?
computer this year.
Was it on the computer the year before?
Only for certain grade levels.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah, all right.
And you're right, there's a learning curve for,
Because I'm not,
which is
obviously, I'm not a fan
why,
of what I see, but I understand too that it's, they're still playing with their test. I really feel this in the back of my head.
Mhm.
The state is still playing games with
Mm.
their test,
Well, they're-
and we're throwing the kids on the computer,
Yeah.
so I'm
so
not making
the,
excuses.
so the
but-
important part, going back to some of the things, bless you, you know, in terms of how we're integrating technology,
Mhm.
we need to be doing that, which is why we talk about hopefully going to one-to-one
Right, right.
and give access on a daily basis so that they're using that technology to support the work they do on a daily basis. And it's not, oh, I get a computer when the MCAS rolls around.
Right.
And that's an important designation too, Beth, because when you go back to the legacy
Yeah.
MCAS that we're talking about for the high school, knowing that that's, if we don't have some of those things put in place in terms of more integrated technology into
Right.
the classrooms,
Right,
then
right.
the potential to see that slide is
Yeah.
there as well.
Yeah,
Because
Absolutely.
they haven't
'Cause-
shifted to that
Right.
online
Exactly,
testing.
because you even look at how the state has done in comparison, and I don't think that's necessarily reflective of all the school districts in our state. I think it's reflective of the test and the expectations for the computer that they have for everyone.
Right.
So,
It is a good way to push to get to one-to-one. State's
Mhm.
no fool on that, in terms of driving technology.
Right,
So as we put together the goals for this budget, basically we looked at 3 specific goals. We, obviously, as we're reviewing current staff and programming, we want to maintain all programming and staff members that are effectively supporting our students in their learning and growth. As I said at the beginning, we're looking to expand the social and emotional education and support throughout the district. And we're looking to see how do we do a better job integrating that into our curriculum. It shouldn't be an add-on.
Right.
There are elements that you may have as you go up through a support system or a tiered support system, but the more we can integrate into the curriculum, the better off we are. And then we're also, this is something that we had in place last year. Unfortunately, the budget last year could not support the additional money at the curriculum renewal line item. Currently, that sits at $100,000, and that was something that the school committee put in place about 5 years ago, which I certainly commend all of you on, given that there are many districts that have a curriculum renewal cycle, but there are not necessarily many districts that have an actual line item that's been identified where it's for that process. In this budget, we're requesting to increase that by about $50,000, so it'd be a total of $150,000. So how do we do this? Well, we're looking to hire a social and emotional teacher at the high school and at Meadowbrook. And in previous discussions around the budget, you've heard some of the reasoning as to why this can have such a positive impact. It not only provides some consultation to other staff members, but it also starts to build a support system within the day for students who may need a different type of schedule. We also want to maintain, and this is not something where additional funding is needed, but 2 years ago, we developed a line item looking at our contracted services and some of our special education costs, and said, what if we were able to transfer some of this and provide a certain amount of money based on enrollment to our schools to look at what else can they bring, whether it be professional development or some type of intervention can they bring to their students around social and emotional support. And so we do want to keep that separated out. We have not increased that funding, but we would like to keep that in this budget developed where that funding still exists.
Is that building base specific?
It's building specific based on enrollment. So we took a total figure of 60,000, and then we just take a percentage based on enrollment. And then the last, or second to last bullet there, last year we were able to really assist the high school in expanding how they use technology on a daily basis, how we get into the digital literacy and computer science standards that really run K through 12. And we were able to hire at the high school a an instructional technology specialist, and that has had pretty incredible impact, I think, on what the high school does on a daily basis, and how teachers are now utilizing technology in their classrooms and with their students. And then I mentioned this before, specific, we would like to increase the curriculum renewal budget line item by $50,000. Just to give you some backup information, so we were able to, this school year, last year at this time, we were talking about it, but this year we were able to put a social emotional teacher in place at Birchland. The reason that we looked at Birchland first was because that's where we were seeing the highest number of referrals for out-of-district placements. Just to give you some statistics, this was back at the mid-cycle, and we did talk a little bit about this, but you're seeing a decline in disciplinary notes. You're seeing a decline in suspensions. You're seeing an increase in student assistance meetings, but the increase we see as a positive situation because teachers are now looking at this as what other elements can I bring to assist this student and keep this student in my class. They did this year, usually we do our end of the year surveys, but this year they did a middle of the year survey. They'll still do an end of the year survey, but you see in the green there that students were asked the questions, overall I feel safe at BPMS, 91%. I enjoy being with this staff, 90%. And I believe that staff have attempted to make positive relationships with me, 91%. All good percentages. We'd obviously like them even to get closer to 100. But right now, feeling pretty good about those responses. And then in the classroom itself, our social and emotional teacher has now begun to work directly with students, and schedules have been adjusted for a certain number of students where they may be receiving some of their academics, not necessarily all their academics, but some academics in the social and emotional classroom. And then outside of direct classroom instruction, our social emotional teacher is mentoring 12 students currently.
Are those 26 students specifically, do they have IEPs or 504s that mandate or require that?
Some do.
Yep.
Some might be in the process of getting one, but it was not an immediate requirement in terms of getting some assistance. Generally, things will be addressed in the student assistance meeting, and they'll start to figure
And
out.
the team decides then,
Right.
most probably
what-
in conjunction with the parents.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep.
And then that same teacher has impact on all the students in the,
Absolutely. So the year
Building.
began, this teacher didn't necessarily have a caseload or classes that were set with students. So he began the year consulting with the teams at the middle school, started to work and mentor students as guidance counselors and student assistance meeting teams referred people, and he started, which he has continued, it's not on the chart, but he started 2 lunch groups, which he continues today. So that's some positive impact that when you hire a social emotional teacher can happen. What we're looking hopefully to do is build this similar to our intensive special needs program, K to 12. And so we're looking at hiring at the high school and at Meadowbrook, and we think that we can revamp a program that's already in existence at Mountain View with some more professional development, maybe to have that program all the way through.
and in each individual school, the model will be similar to Birchland?
I think similar, but they're gonna tailor it somewhat to the needs at that level, right?
In conjunction with the principal, the assistant principal?
Right. Yep.
Yourself, okay, yep.
Yep. Instructional technology specialist, this was something that we were able to hire for at the high school, and I think we're having great impact. Really, this is just a look at this gentleman's webpage, and it's hard to see if you're looking at the screen there, but just to read the first part of it, one-to-one teacher support is where the webpage starts, and says, is there a technology project you have always wanted to try with your classes? The ITS specialist will work with you one-to-one to research, design, implement, co-teach the tech lesson or project in your classroom, book a 30-minute session. So this not only is planning, but it also could be co-teaching, and that's happened throughout the school year. Additionally, as you go down that page, we talked at the mid-cycle around tech cafes. I believe he's up to 21 technology cafes where he's researched something that seems to be useful, or maybe someone's asked about it, maybe someone hasn't asked about it, but then puts on, generally on a Friday, correct, Dr. Flanagan? Will put on a technology cafe where he has drop-in periods throughout the day and tries to get this out. All staff members are part of his Google Classroom, so they get updates and messages through their Google Classroom on what he's doing and what they'll be able to see not only in the Tech Cafe, but I believe they also can reserve either through the Google Classroom or just through an email. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna ask, since those are screencasted, is there a way to also have those so that they can be shared across all the other sites?
Interesting. So this is from his webpage. Yeah, we probably.
So if they're recorded,
You
they
could
provide
do
access to.
two things. You could either incorporate everybody into the Google Classroom so they'd all get the updates, so all ELPS staff. Or this just happens to be his webpage that he's created. I could give that link to all the principals too, and they'd be able to go on and see.
Just
Yeah,
like with their,
yeah, good point.
First paragraph, the end of the first paragraph, the ITS specialist would love to complete one lesson project with each teacher during the school year. Do we know if they're on pace to do that?
Well, he's
That's a
done
good question.
co-teaching, not with every single teacher.
Yeah.
But he's done quite a few co-teaching sessions with our teachers, yeah.
And
Cap?
I did see him earlier in the year working with the social studies department, not only on looking at how technology can help them with the new standards, but also using the virtual reality goggles. You can use those with students, and basically you have a field trip when you never leave your chair.
Yeah. Are we ensuring that he's, that he's making an effort to reach out to all the teachers? I know some are more apt to go after it themselves than others, but I think it's important
Yep,
that
and
across the board.
he's also done PD for full staff on our PD days as well. So
Right.
he is out there, and what's great about Mr. Zilch is there's a great comfort level because he was, just came from the classroom. So people feel really comfortable with him. He's really easygoing personality, so it's working out really well.
On the two full professional development days, his class, his workshops have been booked, and it's all grade levels. And so he's done a lot to help people understand all the Google Classroom elements and all the Google Suite elements, as well as bringing in, it's not just about Google, bringing in other tech elements that might be helpful in their classroom. So, as we look at all this, getting back to what the original request was, so it is an increase of about 3.46% to this current FY 2019 budget. So that would be a total budget request of $31,357,590. We rounded up, so no cents. Little joke, sorry. We do have, at least I got some laughs. We have mentioned in one of the workshops with the town council that the governor's proposed budget had a 7.36% increase of Chapter 70 aid to East Long Meadow, and that would basically mean another $828,492 would be coming in through Chapter 70 aid, which is right around $12 million to East Long Meadow. House Ways and Means just recently proposed and increased the governor's proposal. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the final state budget will have us at 7.5% or an additional $848,000, but the fact that the governor's proposal was increased by the House Ways and Means, that's a good sign.
It's a good sign, but it's disappointing that the House didn't take an additional step and increase it more like they talked about.
Sure.
And now they're gonna throw it to the Senate to try and see, and then it'll end up in Ways and Means
Right, for
to
both.
see where the number is, but there was a lot of disappointment. It is an increase, but people were expecting a little bit more out of the House.
But in terms of timeliness or timeness, it's good that they're consistent, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Because the chances are
Absolutely.
we can start to use this kind of number.
Right, because the Senate budget won't be out for until the end of, probably mid-May, they're talking.
Do we know if the town, I know she's not the town accountant anymore, the finance director is using this?
They use the
these
governor's
numbers?
budget,
number,
yeah.
okay.
So the governor's proposal is the one that our town finance director has used to generate numbers for the town council to look at.
Sources, yeah.
And
But we have let her know, as well as the town manager, that House Ways and Means has increased that, so that's a good thing. The other area that we've discussed with the town has been that services that school personnel provide through IEPs, many of them are reimbursable through Medicaid. And so for probably over 15, 20 years, we have been keeping records of that and then sending in for reimbursement. And that money, although the actual law says is created to help offset some of the costs of special education, flows into the town's general fund. So it's not money that is coming back into the schools. So we did want to at least identify it because the last 5, if not 8 years, that money has gone up. And we're estimating that this fiscal year, it's gonna be about $250,000 coming back into the town general fund. So that's a significant amount of money that's increased over money or revenue that came into the town last year.
Do you know offhand, Gordon,
Mhm.
the, what it was last year, the Medicaid reimbursement?
I don't offhand, but I can certainly get you that. Did you say 212? Okay.
it was around
212.
212,000.
But the one thing I wanna say is, our increase is approximately 1,049,000. And as we push with town council and other workshops, this budget year is its own unique year. If you add up our increases and add up these two streams of revenue, we don't need any money from the town to achieve our
No,
3.4.
any additional money.
Well, we do.
Any additional money, right.
We do
But this is
slightly-
money that actually goes
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah.
But we also have
Because-
to take into
right.
account it's the Medicaid reimbursement is the difference, so the increase is not
Mhm.
250,000, the increase is
Yeah, if you take
38,000.
all of the.
Right.
So we are still requiring some from the town, but minimal in terms of
Minimal
required
this year.
percentage.
Exactly,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Exactly.
One item which we haven't discussed in great detail with the town is that starting July 1, services not just that are outlined in an IEP, but services that may come through a 504 will also be Medicaid reimbursable.
Right.
So that's going to increase.
There was a change,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
How are
250,000
they gonna fund that?
is a,
Feds,
is a
That'll be-
conservative
Yeah,
estimate.
that's funded federally?
yeah.
Mhm.
Medicaid is funded federally.
Okay.
It's federally funded,
Yeah.
dispersed through the state.
Right, but won't that be a large increase across the board?
They're not-
Yeah,
Countrywide?
will be.
It could be,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what I'm wondering how,
It's been passed.
because that's not even an unfunded money, that's the federal government
It's-
mandating
right.
itself to fund it.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
There's a little bit of pushback on the federal level on this, trying to implement it, but it looks like it's gonna hit.
Yeah.
So, that gives you an overview of how we built the budget, what we're requesting, specific, staff numbers. And we feel, obviously, this will continue to strengthen our focus to support the whole child throughout all grades. Questions?
Pretty clear.
We're meeting with town, are we meeting with town council tomorrow, or they're just discussing?
They're discussing the budget, on their regular meeting.
Okay.
I am on the agenda, actually, it will be later on in our agenda here, to ask about the, Meadowbrook
Okay.
roof project.
Any further questions before we close out the budget hearing?
No.
We just close it out, right?
Ask if there's any comments from the public.
Any comments from the public, I'll ask. Seeing and hearing none?
Move to close the public hearing.
No, you don't even need to just close it, you don't need a motion. No, it's public hearing, it's
Don't we
not,
always close public hearings?
no, you just, the
Other-
chair,
The chair.
other
The chair
committees
closes.
Close public hearings.
I don't, it's not required, but we can do it.
Planning and
yeah.
zoning would vote to close the public.
Okay, I mean,
Doesn't hurt anything.
no.
Yeah,
Just
go
do it.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Move to close the budget public hearing.
I'll second.
Second, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed? We're unanimous, Mr. Saletti. Move to approval of minutes, 4.1, approval of the April 4th, 2019 parent forum minutes. Do I have a motion, please?
Move to approve the April 4th, 2019 Parent Forum minutes.
I have a motion, I have a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, there's just one typo.
I didn't catch any good.
The parent forum was held in the high school cafeteria, not the superintendent's conference room, okay?
Good point. Go pick up Mr. Fonseca.
Certainly a well-attended event, 179 views on the LCAT
really?
YouTube channel, and probably had about that many that night, so
Yeah.
worthwhile endeavor for that event.
Hmm,
And certainly out on LCAT still, if anybody has interest in watching it.
Good point, Mr. Thompson.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. 4.2, approval of the April 8th, 2019 regular meeting minutes. Do I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the April 8th, 2019 regular session minute.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion before we approve? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? We're unanimous, Mr. Saletti. Moving along now to committee and subcommittee communications. Mr. Jake Brady, lead off.
So, thank you. So, this upcoming Thursday, a few student representatives, including myself, will be attending the STEM night at Mountain View School. Meadowbrook.
Meadowbrook.
Yes.
Meadowbrook.
At 6:30 p.m. And we will be presenting some of the work we've done throughout the year in various STEM-related classes. I'll be going through some of the projects I've done in AP Computer Science. So it will be a good way to show students how they'll how their career at the East Longmeadow Public Schools will build and lead up to a diverse strength in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And hopefully some of our presentations will be able to inspire students to keep working hard and continue in the field of STEM. And then Friday, April 26th, the National Honor Society will be hosting Superhero Day at the high school. So this will be an opportunity for students and staff to dress up in their favorite superhero outfits. And at the same time, the National Honor Society will be collecting donations for charity. So it's a good way for everyone to have a little bit of fun and also to support a good cause.
Sounds good. As long as we can see pictures, I'm all for it.
I wanted to come up, I'm afraid so. So anyway, Mr. Fonseca, thank you, Mr. Brady, as always. Mr. Fonseca.
Okay, the Open Space Committee continues to work through the new open space plan that will be submitted to the state roughly around August 1st of this year, at least that's what the target is. And Day on the Hill is next Wednesday at the State House.
Ms. Trulio.
Connected to school committee, but not entirely. I was able to go to the 125th Fishing Derby
Okay.
celebration, so that was really exciting, really well attended by the community, and it was wonderful to see the Lions really reinvigorating such a nice tradition within the town. So there was a lot of students out there fishing, so it was a really nice family-friendly
Did you put the
event.
worm on the hook?
I did not put the worm in the hook.
Would
We
you-
carry the fish up
What
to
did they use though? What did the kids use?
marshmallows. Our kids
Oh,
use
marshmallows.
marshmallows, and we
Yeah.
caught,
Oh, I didn't know that.
caught quite a few fish. And we also had the littlest fisherman, as was my nephew, so that was exciting. And then also, just to echo what Jake said, Thursday night is the STEM event at Meadowbrook. They really put a lot of work into that, and it's incorporating not just the high school, but the other sites as well. So looking forward to attending that this Thursday evening.
Mr. Thompson.
I will pass, thank you, sir.
Asking about you.
E-Leaf on May 21st at Bentley's. They are having a celebrity bartending event, and it is going to be, they've got some really good celebrities that are going to be there. And
Any school committee members?
Um,
That's
Yeah, they didn't ask me this year.
No.
they've got some good, I'm gonna
Did
keep it
last
on the
year.
down low.
Oh, maybe you?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's no
me.
bad.
No. But it starts at 5 o'clock, it's on the 21st, it's a Tuesday, it's at Bentley's. And all the tips go right to E-Leaf, and I think portion
Yeah.
of what they sell
Yeah.
also goes to them, so that's amazing. And I think Birchland has a talent show Monday night.
Monday night, they do?
They
Cool.
do.
Okay.
And I'll just add a couple quick things. We did have a sick leave bank meeting, and I had a chance to observe some athletic events. It was kind of nice with the weather being nice, to kind of walk around, see all the fields being used from JV and freshman right through to varsity.
Curse still lifted?
Pardon me?
Is there
Still
any
is-
results?
That's good, yeah, awesome results.
Okay, good.
Agenda item number 6, opportunity for visitors to address the committee. Is there anybody who wishes to address the committee at this time? Seeing and hearing none, let's go to presentations. Superintendent's report 7.1.1 ELHS Latin Honors Recognition.
Okay.
Mr. Smith.
In your packet, you have a memo from, there are two me from Dr. Flanagan, and Dr. Flanagan is with us this evening. So we'll invite her up to go over the Latin Honors Recognition, which probably all of you are familiar in seeing some of this at the collegiate ranks, but this is something that's becoming more and more common at the high school level.
Yes,
Turn it
so
over to Dr. Flanagan.
in response to find some type of system to honor our students who are high achieving, we did a little bit more research. And what we're proposing is that the East Long Meadow High School utilize the Latin Honors System, which Mr. Smith explained is something that is used typically at the collegiate level across the country. The typical Latin Honors program operates on a 4-point scale, being that colleges do not have a distinction between honors and AP level courses. As such, they receive GPA benchmarks of 3.5, 3.7, and 3.9. In the traditional Latin Honors System, colleges, again, do not differentiate between standard honors and AP. We, however, operate on an adjusted GPA scale where we do weigh our honor courses on a 4.5 scale and our AP courses on a 5.0 scale. So in order to best fit the Latin Honors Program designations to our current 4.5 GPA model, we did some mathematics to it, and you can see from the presentation sheet that we gave you that a student who would be categorized as cum laude would receive a 3.5 on a 4-point scale. Adjusted would be to a 3.94 on a 4.5 scale. Magna cum laude, which is generally 3.7 on a 4.0 scale, adjusted would be a 4.16 on a 4.5 scale. Summa cum laude, which is generally a 3.9 on a 4-point scale, would be adjusted to 4.39 on a 4.5 scale. If we were to utilize the 5.0 scale and adjusted it to the equivalent of the Latin Honors categories.
Am I interrupting you a
Yep.
minute? In my
Certainly.
memo, it looks like the numbers are out of order.
Yeah.
Are
I think
they?
we reversed them.
You see that?
For
So
the
it should be
second set.
4.38, then 4.63.
For the second set, the 5.0
Right,
I'm gonna read,
exactly.
okay,
Just, maybe, I want to make sure that I'm asking the right way. So they should be flipped.
correct.
Okay,
Sorry
so
about that,
just-
yep.
Oh, that's okay, just expect.
So what we did was, as you could see from that chart that we created, we looked at the number of students, if we were to, instill this based on the different weight scales, how many students would hit each category. So if you can see that we did it by the 4.0 scale, which is the true Latin Honors designation. We did it by the adjusted 4.5 scale, which is targeted toward honor students, and the adjusted 5.0 scale. We felt that the adjusted 4.5 scale kind of opened the blanket up to allow more students to be recognized for their efforts. If we had done the 4.5 scale, you'll notice that none of our students would have hit the summa cum laude because that reaches the 4.0
5.0.
scale.
Yeah.
So I hope that kind of gives you a kind of an understanding of where we kind of targeted these numbers. If you look at the bottom of the sheet, one of the things we looked at was the advantages of using the Latin Honors System, and we pulled this from the greatschoolspartnership.org, and I've included that link, so if you want to read a little bit more about that, it's certainly there for you to do so. But one of the things that they outlined is that Latin Honors recognize the academic accomplishments of more students. So instead of honoring only a handful of students whose performance may be based on relatively small differences in GPA, Latin Honors recognize all students whose performance exceeded high academic standards. Secondly, the Latin Honors System represents a much more broader spectrum of academic accomplishments with the 3 levels. Latin Honors are more fundamentally equitable when academic recognition is based on a relative measures and a student-to-student comparisons rather than the same consistent standards. One student's success is another student's failure and vice versa. And finally, college, universities, and the general public are familiar with the Latin Honors system. So what we are proposing is that we utilize the adjusted 4.5 scale for this year. It would be designated on the graduation program. And that's,
How many students are in the graduating class, approximately, Dr.
is
Flanagan?
it 220-ish?
So this would be around, what percentage of the 4.5?
26, 32,
20%?
42, yeah.
20%, which is about average, yeah.
My concern is, you can go through your 4 years of high school,
Mhm.
never take an AP class, get your straight A's, and never take an AP class, and you can hit the highest honors on a 4.5 scale. It means that you've never tried to do that, and I guess that would be my biggest concern with this, is that obviously we can't do the 5.0, because I don't even think it's possible to get to that.
Mhm.
But is there a point in between where, in order to get summa cum laude, you need to take an AP? And I guess I feel, is there a spot in between there that we could pick that would work?
Do you have a suggestion of
Well,
what you're thinking?
well, that was part of the reason why I had asked what the kids the last few years ago, was it 4.6 or 4.65,
Yep.
whatever that was? And I didn't know if that was maybe fair. I mean, I know that there's, even fitting in APs can be difficult, so you don't want to make it, I don't want to make it so kids can't get it, but if
Right.
kids have been able to attain it at that scale, then that's fine with me. I mean, I would think, I just think that you have to at least take an AP. Come on. They're
What
fun.
What if you didn't necessarily raise the grade point average, but you put as an asterisk additional eligibility requirement for summa cum laude, that summa cum laude requires that a student has challenged himself or herself by taking an at least one AP course?
Don't have to necessarily do well in it.
No,
No.
but if they don't do well in it, they're not gonna make the grade point average, so then you have both.
I don't know, Jake, what do you think?
If I could just add, I believe, obviously the 4.5 scale is out of 4.5, but
Mhm.
it's also including the standard courses such as
Mhm.
health and gym. So
Right.
that kind of balances out where it's more difficult to get a GPA closer to 4.5. So what I'm trying to say is people in the summa cum laude range will most definitely be taking at least one AP course. Yeah.
But not all of the classes are designated toward your GPA, am I correct, or is that changing when this switches over?
Like electives, you mean?
Like, I don't think PE does, I
Right.
don't think health does,
Right,
I don't
that's
think,
correct.
some of the English, like Spartan, like the Spartan Spectator, all those, they don't count toward the GPA.
Mhm.
It's just your English, your science, your
The
social.
cores, yeah.
The cores. So like, that wouldn't, so it would be your standard, it would be your regular classes that you take, not any of the, they're not really extras, I don't know what you call them.
Electives,
The electives that you do.
beyond the core.
Yeah,
Well, anecdotally speaking, of the 13 students that this year, in theory, would make it under the 4.5, are they all taking at least one AP class? Do you know?
I don't know if, I don't want to say definitively, but
Yeah.
I would imagine so. I could go back and check that for you if you wanted me to.
Because otherwise, it might just mean the change in the number, in the percentage, and
Yeah.
not the stipulation, unless we think that's what it requires.
I don't know, would we, I mean, is it difficult to say, oh, you gotta do this, you have to take an AP, or you have to, I mean,
What do you think, Dr. Flynn?
I guess, so we put that in the policy that in order to get the summa cum laude, you'd have to take an AP course, is that what you're
That's what-
suggesting?
That was just one recommendation. So
Okay.
if you're not looking to increase the.
So in addition to
um,
meeting the GPA requirement, you
Correct,
have
so
to
instead of
take it
just
at-
increasing the GPA, breaking sort of with your formula and just increasing summa cum laude GPA, you just add that extra criterion for eligibility. There's one recommendation.
Yeah.
What's wrong with a student getting all A's in honors classes?
well, there's nothing.
Nothing,
Do you
it's
think they
great.
should get
Yeah.
highest honors when maybe somebody's gone and they've taken 3 APs and they've only gotten a B in it, and so that's brought down their GPA, but at least they tried to take the AP classes, where you have another student who's just said, I don't wanna do the APs, and they can get it, and the student that has at least
But
I mean, I
tried.
think to Jake's
Percentage.
point, though, the B in that AP is gonna be on a 5.0 scale, so
Yeah.
it's gonna increase.
Well, I mean, it will, but I'm
Right.
saying, and maybe that would still bring them up to the 4.5, but I also thinking, that I just think that I think you should try to take an AP in order to get it. I don't know, that's all.
What percentage of students take at least one AP class? Do you know that?
I don't know the
Roughly.
answer to that.
I don't have any evidence, like,
Actually, I could pull it up on our profile sheet.
What do you think? Deb?
I'd say around 50, up to 50
50
students.
students?
I would say so.
Oh, student, or are you looking for percentage?
Well, so either
Yeah.
one.
I think,
I think 50 students.
I
50.
can tell you right
When I was at the
now.
high
Over
school-
20%.
When I was at the
I
high
can
school.
tell you right now.
When I was at the high school, I think we were over 50%.
Yeah.
They took an AP class?
Yes, because you had subjects such as AP
So-
Psych, which attracted a large population. AP Comp Science attracts a
Wow.
large
I didn't
population.
realize it was that high.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I
for
think Psych had
example,
4
it-
sections.
On our website, we have our profile. It says 182 total students in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade sat for AP placement exams. So for example, and then we weighted out by the number of students in each course. So 24 students sat for the bio exam, 18 for AP Calc. So it's broken down by that.
Yeah, so out of the 182, it probably, as you go along, more take it. So
More
less
juniors and
sophomores, more
Yeah,
juniors, more
as you get
seniors.
to
That's
So
senior
correct.
year.
you're probably 80 to 100
Yep.
seniors have taken an AP course, maybe. Okay,
so
so I think we're gonna hit it probably if only 13 are
Yeah.
fit in that
Yeah.
category. I bet they're all taking an AP class.
I mean, plus, I think it's our first year doing it. I think this is a
Let's see
a
what
natural
happens.
step, and I think, Ms. Marks, maybe that's something that's researched, and if it's not, if it's out of the 13 students, if a majority are not taking an AP course, then I think I would have to sit back and say, wait a minute, we have to review this again.
Right, then we look at it again.
Yeah.
But to start off insisting, I think we should let the students govern themselves, saying, okay, naturally, I think they're gonna take AP classes, as opposed to us saying you have to. They're gonna want to. I think
But
the
they don't
data
have
bears
to.
it out, but the data's
I mean,
starting
the
to bear it
state
out.
wants us to have the kids taking them. I know that they're
Right.
pushing that.
Right.
And the guidance department
And, yeah,
also.
so I
Well,
think,
yeah.
and to Rich's point, I agree, let's see what happens.
And I don't know that students will bypass an AP course just for the Latin designation.
Right.
Right? I mean, because really that's what we would want to prohibit, is be the deterrent to take easier classes so you can get the lab. But I don't know
Right.
that this bears that much weight, that an AP course would
Well, no,
not hold
but-
more weight than would a,
Mr. Smith's the one that said that they should
Latin.
have to take it.
Right.
I didn't
I
say
tried-
that.
I
I'm
tried to
in
offer
trouble
a
now.
middle of
and
the road, yeah,
I
sorry.
just
It was
feel
my
that
recommendation.
But I still think that
It should be. but-
now, but we had this conversation prior about the other designation, and your crew was not really very much in favor. Are you now in favor of this?
Yeah, I
doing
think
this?
what we like about it is that it eliminates the competition piece that we were talking about between a very small number of students, and it kind of opens the net in terms of recognizing more students in different ways. So I think we also went to student council with it, and the kids loved it as well. So I think from a student perspective, staff perspective, we think this is a really good compromise.
I'm just gonna add this, Mr. Vigneault, who I know from teaching ranks, has raised his hand. I know you were at Belchertown High School?
Yeah, just one more thing that you might want to consider, but I think the idea of sort of waiting on the AP for now, because it sounds great, but there's a lot of stuff that's involved in the AP as a business as well, and making that distinction. I know that we've got kids now who, whereas it used to be if you got a 3 on that 1 to 5 AP scale, it used to be if you got a 3 almost anywhere, unless you were talking about maybe an Ivy League institution, 3 or above was always credit. Now, a number of places, at the same time that AP is encouraging more and more students to take AP classes, there are fewer and fewer places. A lot of places now, it's only a 4 or 5. I know some students, if they talk about, carrying a weight of a number of AP classes, there's a financial commitment to that as well. I like the idea of students challenging themselves. I think it's important to remember that there is a financial aspect to AP run as a business itself, which is, I'd say, I'd be careful with that part of it also.
I just want them, like I said, I wasn't making AP part mandatory, but I'm just saying, I want that these kids to be students who've really challenged themselves, so. It's better than nothing, and I'm happy that it has come to this, because I really feel that this is something that should have been presented to us earlier in the year.
Well, to be fair, we came with our first draft and we got good feedback, and so we tried again. So it wasn't like a one and done thing,
The
but
first
we're
draft
open to the
was-
feedback.
Okay.
So
I just
this
felt
would
the first
become
draft was
part of
nothing.
our, but the student handbook?
Well,
is that
I
what
get what
we're-
you're
Well,
saying.
it's gonna be probably, I guess it would go in.
Part of the handbook.
This go in the student handbook, is that,
Yes, we'd like to put that.
okay.
And are the classes that are gonna be weighted very, right now, when you look at the handbook, or
What
the student program of studies,
yeah.
Mhm.
it needs to be very well defined, what classes are weighted and what
Okay.
are not, because it's very kind of loosey-goosey.
We used to have it in there.
It was, but
I
it's not,
remember it
I was
being there
going
at
through
one
and I
point.
couldn't find it.
So
That
yeah,
was
I'll
one of
check
the
into
changes
that.
in the, maybe the second to last meeting, we had requested, and Dr. Flanagan said she was
Okay.
gonna do that.
So this goes in the program of studies?
Programs.
You would put this in program
Okay.
studies as well.
I will feel.
And it'll be what, on the,
But your motion, if you wanna recognize it this year, should indicate that, because it's
Oh, yeah.
not in the program.
Right,
studies.
because we want to include it with the graduation programs.
And Dr. Flanagan, you would recommend the 4.5
We would, yeah, we all felt that that was a good.
numbers? And we calculate to the 100th.
That's right.
you good with it, Jake? Okay.
Good. Well, do I have a motion? Someone wants to give this a shot.
Come on, Beth, bring us
I move that we recognize graduating students starting with the class of 2019 with the Latin honor system. It will be should I state an adjusted 4.5 scale. It will include summa, magna, and cum laude.
Excellent.
All right?
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Discussion.
So
Do we have to note, go ahead, I'll go.
This will be, or these percentages we're gonna use going forward unless we decide to change them,
Sure.
Right.
right? Okay.
Okay.
Does it have to be designated where we're gonna place it, program of studies, handbook, or does that have to be part of the motion?
Okay, it should become,
Oh, I think it's up to the administration how
Yeah.
they.
All right.
I would
Okay.
put it in our
I
grading,
think-
in the grading section.
Yeah,
of the
Yeah,
program.
grading
Yeah,
section of
okay,
program
all right.
studies.
but it will be recognized at graduation
will?
in
Yeah.
some
In
form.
the,
We're gonna
you'll put it
probably,
in the program,
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful.
it might be too late to do the designation of robes, just because graduation's already here, but
Yeah.
if we decide to move in that direction,
Could they just do courts?
we'd have to order them. I mean, would you think courts for everyone?
No.
Because remember,
summa.
NHS also has courts too.
They have a sash.
The sash, but they have the designation.
Do you want to do it just for the kids with summa?
Well, we'd have to order them, but for next year, we could do something.
Yeah, they can't get them here for us in a month.
I mean, I could ask Mrs. Hellier, who is
Well,
very
let's-
overworked right
Why
now.
Just-
don't we try the program, and I say
Okay.
that because we're trying to acknowledge the 3 levels.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then
Definitely the
in
program.
the future, we'll talk about.
Yeah, I can't remember, do they do all 3 designations at high school or college graduations?
In the,
With
No,
the
but
in
like
the
the-
program.
I know the program
The
said,
one
yeah,
F, the
but
one
I don't know
star,
about
the
the.
2 star, the
Yeah, no,
3.
I know that, but I mean, in terms of a
Oh, I don't know about the
specific, yeah,
robes.
I don't
I
know
don't know about the
either.
robes either.
But I think that's something we may have to look at for next year.
Yeah.
Because of the timing.
If she can look into it,
Yep.
if she can't,
Yes.
All right.
just ask her,
Okay,
please.
I will.
Okay, having discussion over. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Anybody opposed? Unanimous? Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving right along to 9.1, the new ELPS custodial contract vote. Do I have a motion, please?
I move to approve, and I'm trying to get to it, sorry, the custodial contract for, so I want to get the dates. One sec. The custodial association contract for July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2022.
Thank you, Ms. Marciano. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. 9.2, Mountain View 5th grade field trip, Sunny's Place, June 7th, 2009, with the rain date.
So this is a request coming from Mrs. Santinella at the Mountain View School. It's a PTO-sponsored field trip, taking the entire 5th grade, sort of as their end-of-the-year celebration to Sunny's Place. So that's approximately 99 students with at least 8 chaperones. My guess is with parents, you're gonna have well over 8 chaperones.
I can't believe the PTO's paying for the whole trip. That's
Whole trip.
fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
In the past, we've had requests also be accompanied by which objectives that they're, or learning objectives they meet.
Yeah, this is more of a celebration. I'm not sure how many
So-
academic objectives. It'd be similar to
I
Bertrand's
know.
trip.
Okay.
to-
Can we potentially encourage some learning objectives in all field trips? So even if it's when they get back, they talk about the physics of the slingshot or whatever. I don't know what it would be.
Well, they're gonna be working with mini golf, which means they're gonna have to look at the triangulation. of
I mean, that's fine. I just want to-
About you.
As long as there's some educational value to it, I guess is what I'm getting at, so, thank you.
Do I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the Mountain View PTO fifth grade class trip to Sunny's Place on Friday, June 7th, 2019, with a rain date of Monday, June 10th, 2019.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Anybody opposed? Excellent. And Mr. Smith, a quick update on how we are going along with the MSBA Accelerated Repair Project at Mountain View. All good
Meadowbrook.
news. Oh, what did I say?
Yep.
Mountain, I said
Jeez,
Meadowbrook,
don't get us in
excuse me.
trouble.
Wow.
So this is the Meadowbrook Roof Project, which is an accelerated repair program. Just to give you sort of the quick history, if you remember, last year at this time, actually a little bit earlier, back in February of 2018, we submitted a statement of interest specifically to the accelerated repair program for Meadowbrook's roof. The previous year, they had invited us in the accelerated repair program for windows and doors. Having submitted that in February of 2018, we were then invited into the program in the spring of 2018. In order to submit that statement of interest to the accelerated repair program, if you remember, the school committee did vote to submit February 5th, 2018, and then the town council voted to also allow for the submission February 13th, 2018. Once we were invited in, we then had to go through a number of steps to make sure that we were meeting all the different requirements for the Mass School Building Authority, one of which was on October 23rd of this fall, 2018. The town council appropriated $122,000 for the schematic design phase. We were also, similar to the windows and doors project, we were set as a reimbursement rate of 55%. So anything that we begin to spend that is able to be reimbursed will be reimbursed at 55%. After the schematic design phase was completed, which happened just recently, now you have a full project cost. That full project cost goes to the Mass School Building Authority Board of Directors, and that meeting took place on Wednesday, April 10th. The Board of Directors approved the full project cost, and that came out of the schematic design. That full project estimate right now is at $3,188,859, with a potential grant of $1,285,400. Given some of the contingencies, that grant could increase to about $1.3 million, but right now that's what is the estimated grant. So tomorrow, I am on the town council's meeting agenda to present this same type of information with the town finance director and ask for their appropriation of the $3.1 million, so that we can move to a bid phase and hopefully have it bid starting May 1st.
And after the grant, the town will be on the hook for about 1.9 million for the project.
Depending on what the bids come back.
Approximately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's anything similar to what we just experienced with the windows and doors project, the bids came back significantly under what the total project estimate was. The estimators are extremely conservative and build in a lot of contingencies. One of the benefits of being somewhat faster paced, we could wait, but we're looking to get the bids out in May so we can do most of this work in the summer. If you waited, now those contingencies actually really matter.
Right.
Because pricing may go up.
Yeah.
So, on a positive note, we got a lot of work going on in Meadowbrook, improving that building.
Really, yep.
In Mountain View, we're recommending the modulars replacement, correct?
Correct. So the town has at least have a recommendation that came off our capital plan to remove the modulars.
Maple Shade, we're finishing the doors.
Maple
Steam
Shade, there are
piping?
two projects, right? The door project and the steam piping, which actually is the final step of a pretty prolonged capital project with their whole heating system at Maple Shade.
Good. And we get, all we need now is a new high school, we're doing well, correct?
Piece of cake.
Piece of cake, good work. Town council, Mr. Thompson, you'll be attending? Mr. Fonseca, you'll be attending
Yeah, I'll be
also?
there.
Thank you very much for that. I think that's it, my, excellent meeting. First, always, Mr. Brady, we thank you. I think we have him for one more meeting.
I know. Are you excited?
Yeah.
You can sign on for a few if you like.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere.
Now, as always, I'd love to thank our LCAT volunteer, Mr. Don Mackey, for his kind work.
It's probably-
Not a volunteer.
You love being here, in other
I
words.
love being here, but I'm not a volunteer.
Yeah.
I do have a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
So moved, have a second?
A second.
Discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed?